Hello, class. We are back, and I want to finish up on this gas problem. Now, as you know from the beginning of the last class, the last video, there was a little error over in here, and as I told you, I just erased what I had to. However, made a mistake. I forgot to erase a number or two, and it messed this all up. Anyway, I believe it's correct now, and let's go back and wrap it up. Now, where I cut off on this, I think you'll find was accurate and was right here. Okay, so let's review quickly. When you add up all the BTUs, you come up with 465. The distance was 125. Remember, it was 101, but I had already told you make it 125. This is unusually long. And if you look on the chart, you'll see that 125, the BTU the BTU that it can handle, different size pipes can handle, is greatly reduced from, we'll say, 40 or 50 feet because of all the friction in the line. Okay, with that said, let's go back up here. Now, at the meter, we came up with 165. Excuse me, 465, 125. So that would be inch and a half. Remember, you go over to the chart, read across until you get to something that can handle 465, and you come up with 1.5. Now, 1.5 will go bigger than that. I think it was into the 500 range, low 500s, but it has to be at least 465. All right, then we go to the boiler. Drop off the boiler. Now you can already see the boiler was a 1-inch pipe, which, like I said, we'll come back to. So we drop off the boiler right here, 160. It's 305. Go back into the chart, 125 feet. The first number that will handle 305 is 1.25. Okay? Now, if you look really close, I don't know if you can see it at home, but I do have the numbers penned in right here, or a magic marker in right here, 465, 305. And here it is here. So between the boiler and the water heater, we still have, we have, inch and a quarter pipe. Now, this is where I kind of went off the rails, but it's back on. So once we get rid of the water heater, right, the water heater um, is right here, 75, right? It drops down to 230 right here, right there, okay? So 230, look on the chart, and let's see if I have my chart here. I do. Okay, hold on a sec. All right, so read across. 125 feet. The first one that will handle 230 is 1.25, right? 1-inch pipe was only going up to 173. Okay, so it's still 1.25 inches. So let's continue what I started before. We'll circle it as we go. So this stretch from here to here is 1.25 inches. So it went 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches. Okay, now we're dropping off the stove. And the stove is 55. Okay, so if we lose the stove, it drops down to 175. Okay, 175 is, I believe that was the one we just looked at. I can't believe it. That's a 3. Okay, that's a 3. So 175, you're going to have to go up to 1.25 inches. All right. These glasses, I thought I saw 175. Okay, just a little bit short. All right, so that's a 125. 1-inch pipe can do 173. It's just a little shy. In real life, that would be nothing. But if you want to size it correctly, you'd have to go to 1.25 inches. 1 inch was just a bit shy. All right. That 3 looked like a 5. Okay, so what happens next? All right, we got rid of 55,000 right here for the stove, right? And we had these two left. All right, so now we're going to get rid of the dryer. So we're going to deduct 85, right? The dryer from what's left. And we're going to have 90. Now, here's the part where you can prove it, both for a test and in real life. When you get done deducting the last two numbers, I put it here. You could put it here. That's 90, right? What was the gas? 90. If your number here, I'm putting it over here, either one. If it's not equal to the last appliance, once you deduct it down, you messed up. Go back. Find your mistake. Because if this number here does not equal this number here, right? What was given, you got a problem. Okay, so that proves that the math is okay. All right, so what do we have? We have 1.25 inches here. It was off by just 2. And see, I read it wrong. Now, if that was a test and they had given me this as of course you would get this for a test. They wouldn't expect you to memorize the whole page. And if you didn't have your good glasses on, or you look quick and the 3 looked like a 5, or excuse me, the 5 looked like a 3, got a problem. Okay, so we got that straightened out. And the last one is going to be just what the last appliance is. So the last appliance is 90,000, and 90,000 at 125 feet. What I did is I just put them up here because they pop up now for the rest of the problem. So at 125 feet, we need 90,000. 3/4 will handle 92,000. So it's just big enough. So this pipe here, going just to the fireplace, is 3/4. Okay? Now let's go back. We're working our way back. The dryer is 85,000 right here. The dryer is 85. It'll still do 3/4. Okay, now what about the stove? The stove is 55. Now, by the way, 1/2 inch is 44,000. Normally, 1/2 inch will handle some of your appliances, your dryer, maybe a stove, the small stuff. But at 121 feet, forget it. It might do that vent-free, ventless heater that I have in my house. That's a 30,000 heater. Yeah, it'd be big enough for that, but not much else. So 1/2 inch at 125 feet is useless to us on this problem. Okay, so the stove at 55, too small, 3/4, right here. The water heater, 75, same thing, no good, 3/4. And the water heater, did I say water heater? 75, all right, 75 is 3/4. The boiler, now the boiler is a different story. It's pretty big, 160. 160, got to bump up to 1-inch pipe. Okay, 3/4 is just too small. Now in real life, you guys have seen residential boilers. How often do you see a 1-inch feed, unless it's a very big boiler? The reason is because the distance is so great on this problem. Like I said, I want to change the numbers around for you so you had to do a little bit of work. So normally 3/4 would have handled it, but with 121 feet, no. You got to jump up to 1-inch pipe. Okay, and here it is right here. Okay, now you all have this, so I'm going to erase it, and I'd like to ask if there's any question. But remember, the first thing you do is to find the size for everything coming off the meter. Okay, and then just drop it down. This is legally now, not being a nice guy and running a full-size pipe. I'm not saying to run it for free either. I'm saying you would just run it for the increased cost it would take you to put it in, and maybe a little bit for the labor. But for code, we're going to drop it down so it meets code and nothing more, just meeting code. Minimum to code is a term. 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches, 1.25. So in other words, this whole section right in here is all 1.25 inches, just by chance. And then we just drop it from 1.25 inches. So this would be 1.25 inches by 3/4 by 3/4 T. All right, remember this T would look like this. This would be the branch going over right here, going over to the dryer. So it would be 1.25 inches by 3/4, and then the branch like that. Okay, that would be the T that you would use there. Okay, and also just as a refresher, I know I've mentioned it before. If you ever run gas pipe, you guys probably know this. You're not supposed to run this across and face everything straight down. It's supposed to come off at like a 90, excuse me, horizontally, then drop down. So you come off with a T, short piece, then down. Okay, that's it for this problem. And what I'm going to do is just fill in the rest of this class with a few other things. So, main thing is that you know how to do it, right? The math is pretty straightforward. It's actually quite easy. But the trick is to be able to understand what the chart's all about. Okay. Now, what I'd like you to do is to take out this plumbing permit that I sent out. I should say Maureen sent to you. And let's go over that for a few minutes. Okay, this is more for you upper tier guys, although pay attention because it's not something you're going to see very often, and I don't think you're going to see it. By the way, I'm sorry, I'm out of the camera there. I was picking something up over here. All right, so that was... All right, just want to check the time on this. Okay, I can't disappear like that. All right. Okay, so what I'd like to do right now is to go over the plumbing permit, something different. I want to mix this up a bit. I don't want to drone on about gas pipe sizing because we could go directly into the commercial sizing, which is just a much bigger scale version of what we just did. Doesn't change anything. Same charts. It's just the numbers can get up into the millions. Some of you guys might have already done that. I've done some, not much, on the commercial side, the big commercial side. But the rules are the same. It's just on a much bigger scale. And like I said, we'll put that aside for another day. So let's try something different. All right, let's take a plumbing permit. All right, so let's say you guys are at tier 1. You could technically have your license in maybe less than 5 years, right? Now, you guys going to do side work? You're going to join the union? You're going to be content working for a good boss? I don't think anybody wants to work for a bad boss. If you haven't worked for a bad boss, don't worry. There's plenty of them out there. So let's say you get your first job that you need a permit. Too big to sneak it in? I shouldn't say sneak it in. We don't do that. But it's a job where you really should have a permit. Now, another thing, if I haven't said this to your group, I'm saying it now. Let me fix this. Looks like it's tilted a bit here. Well, in any case. All right. When it's time to take out a permit, let's say that you're doing some, even if it's side work or it's your full-time above board gig, it's this part here is the same. You got a contractor. This is how it usually goes. You have a contractor that you do a lot of work for, right? And you travel around. Occasionally, you do him a favor, and for the most part, he's doing you a favor the whole time because he's probably not checking your price. Now, once in a while, somebody might approach your contractor and try to like get in on what you're doing, and they might give a few prices. So be very careful with that. Don't get greedy. Always have your price at a point where you can justify it should your regular contractor ask about it. Okay? Because there's always somebody else out there hungry for what you're doing. Okay, so keep that in mind. Take care of your contractor, especially if they're taking care of you, and they probably are. Now, here's the problem. Once in a while, the contractor, he's got family, like a mother-in-law, his mother, or some other close relative, and he probably doesn't want to do it, but he's kind of obligated. So he's got to travel somewhere where he normally would not have gone, too far away. I've seen this several times. And off you go up towards Boston, down the Cape, who knows where. So you're losing an hour or two a day, just travel. And you just suck it up and you do it. And, he might mention he appreciates it or but he knows, you're going out of your way to take care of him because he's taking care of you. So off you go. Now you go down to mom's house and doesn't want permits. Okay. A job where you normally would not even consider doing it under the table, he wants you to do it without a permit. And what do? This guy represents, we'll say, 40% of your business. Well, maybe not. Well, yes, it could. So what do? I don't know. Your call. I'm not going to get into the legal end of it. Should you get a permit? Book answer is yes. However, here's what I'm telling you to do. If you agree to do it without a permit, you have to check with everybody on that job. Make sure they're not taking a permit. The electrician, builder, the air conditioning guy, anybody who might have an inspector coming in, right? You got to make sure you get the word out. You got to get them to sign the life away. They're not going to do it because if anybody gets a permit, you're all cooked, right? The electrician has his electric inspector come in, he changes his mind, chicken's out or whatever. He comes in, he does his inspection, doesn't say anything to you, not his business, but goes back to the office. Guess who's in the same office or probably down the hall? Plumb inspector. Now you got a problem. First of all, you're working without a permit. Could fine you. Doesn't know you. Who are you? You're a guy from 50 miles away. And if you did take a shortcut, you use the Provent or some shortcut. And as good as you like to think your work is, I'm sure a good inspector could find something that's not technically up to code. So remember that. I have seen this happen a few times. I have not seen it end badly where the inspectors showed up, but they could. And also, you get into the area of insurance. If something really awful happened, like the house burned down or worse, somebody was caught up in a fire or the house flooded out, and it was a big investigation. The insurance company alone will be investigating this. They don't like to write checks for $100,000, $200,000. It might come out that this work was done without permits. If one person says something, game's up. So think about that before you get involved with something like that. Think about the consequences. Now, it's easy for me to say. It's not my contractor. I don't have any more contractors. But your call. Okay, enough of that. Let's take a look at this permit. Now, let me see. Okay, you can all see the permit? All right, you got your own. You don't need mine. All right, let's take a look at it. First of all, top left. Now, unless these have changed in the last couple of years, I believe they're still using this format. In the upper left, it'll say P. Big letter P. Can't miss it. The gas version of this, at a quick glance, is a dead ringer for this one. It looks exactly like this, right? If you look quick, you're not really looking at anything specific. But it says G up there. So right away you can see here's the difference. Also, when you turn this form sideways, look at it sideways like this here, you see all the plumbing fixtures. Remember, in plumbing we call them fixtures for you new guys. These are fixtures. In gas, we call them appliances. That would be your boiler, water heater, stove, and so on. Okay, all your gas appliances. And what you do is you see over here, I say I'm not going to use it, but I think I'm going to have to. Over here on the side, we got all the different floors. We got basement, sub-basement. Not too many of those around here. That probably in a big city. And we got first, second, third floor up to, they only go up to 8th floor. What they do on the big buildings, like in Boston, I don't know. But this form will be more than enough for us. Okay, so what you do is you add up all the fixtures on the gas plumbing permit. On the gas, it's the same thing, except it's the gas part of it. Add them all up. Okay, first floor, we got 2 bathrooms. All right, so we're going to check off 2 where it's got water closets. And second floor, we got 2 more water closets. Okay, we check off 2 up there. And we go right across the form. Okay, and then you add them up and you come up with, we'll say, 25 fixtures. Also, at the end of it, they get you even for water. This is so bad. This is kind of like your journeyman and master plumbing license that you need both. They're going to nail you for water piping as if that's a fixture. So you got water piping in the basement, the first, the second floor. I guess you check them all off. Okay, so that's going to count like for three more fixtures. All right, add everything up according to what's here on the form. Now, if you got a tankless, you guys, especially you new guys, a tankless would refer to water heater coming off a boiler. So you count that too. All right, they're substituting that for a water heater. Okay, I can see that one. And some of these here are strictly commercial, like your urinal and area drains. Don't see that much in a house. Backflow preventer. You got a boiler, either it's gas or oil, doesn't matter. You got a backflow preventer. They're going to charge you for that, like a fixture. Okay, now here's the deal. Now, each city and town. I think I told one of you. I don't know if it was tier 1 or 2, but each town. Or city in Mass and Rhode Island too, by the way. They have their own fee schedule, right? It's not statewide like you would expect. It's not. So you go from Fall River to Somerset to Swansea, Rehoboth. They're all different, and sets permit fees. Typical. Typical would be, well, I'm rusty on prices because although I did take a permit for my own house. Uh, Geez, it was a year ago. Um, I don't remember actually, the permit I took was building permit. That's why I can't remember the plumbing. I haven't done any plumbing. All right. Typical would be, we'll say $10 per fixture. And maybe $25 for the permit. Okay? Now, let's say you had just a water heater, nothing else. Very conveniently, it would be like right here. Right? We'll say the gas water heater. And it's $10 plus 25. So the permit alone is $35, right? So to get a permit to put a water heater in this town, wherever it is, we'll say this is Florida, is this price right here. Now you go over to Somerset, and this is different. It might be different. This might be $8. This might be $20, or it might be higher. So you have to get permits from each city and town, and you should have the fee schedule off each city and town. So when you're at your desk at night figuring stuff out, um, it's not a lot of money, but you got a whole house, and it could be in the hundreds, right? Depending on how much they're getting these days for a fixture. You could have 20 fixtures. That's a little high. Maybe 15 fixtures times 10 plus the permit. Well, you're pushing $200. So you should have a fee schedule for each city and town that you work in, right? And these days, I'm sure you can get them online very easily. And those that you don't know, like the one I told you about, where you go down to the Cape to take care of somebody's mother, get the schedule down there if you're going to take a permit, right? Now, officially, I am telling you to take a permit whenever you need a permit. But according to the book, when do you need a permit? You need a permit to do anything. Let's say you want to change your faucet. That's a permit. Swap out a toilet. That's a permit. Fix the faucet. That's okay. Change the ball cock in a tank, water closet. That's okay, but not much else. You can roto-rooter. You can snake out drains. That's about it. Very, very limited what you can do without a permit. Even just taking a toilet out and capping it, you need a permit. Nobody does that, right? And I don't think the inspector wouldn't have enough time. There's not enough time in a day for him to do check out all the jobs that need a permit if we started pulling permits for all that stuff. So use your own judgment. Here's where I tell you to draw the line. If you're swapping out a fixture, I don't think anybody's going to get excited. If you're putting in a new bathroom, new drains, new vents, you need a permit. Take it from there. Okay, so this here, each town sets the permit fee. Now here's an example. I'm going to make it a little extreme example. Let's say you're working in Westport. No, Westport and Dartmouth share a pretty big uh, boundary line. And we'll say there's a street. I don't know if there's any streets like in Fall River. There's a street called State Street. One side of the street's Fall River, one side's Tiverton. You guys, Fall River boys or Tiverton, you know that, right? It's going into Tiverton on South Main Street. It goes from South Main Street to Main Road, right? Right there, you go across the street. Not only you in a different jurisdiction, different city or town, you're in a different state. So you got to pay attention because this stuff is different. Even within the same state, each city and town is different. Okay, an example, Dartmouth. You're in Westport, Dartmouth. Okay, the fee schedule is a little different. We'll say 50, $100 different. My guess is Dartmouth would be more money. But another thing, it's got nothing to do with water with this here, but water service. Now, this we talked about this year, again, in one class. The water service is determined by the city or town, not the plumbing code, right? The plumbing code only says that I think it's 3/4 inch minimum size. Well, anything less than 3/4 wouldn't be big enough to supply a building, right? We would not have enough water. And most places have a 1 inch service these days coming in, but could be 3/4. But in according to some of you guys, they're still looking for soft rolled tubing. That would be type K. Dartmouth, fancy town, houses are set way back. You're looking at maybe 100-foot roll. Very expensive. You go across the, next street over, right? You're in Westport. They may be looking for some kind of plastic. I've seen that in Portsmouth. It might be a fraction of the cost. Okay, if you get lazy and you forget you're doing a house here and you're going to next house you're doing is like a street over, but it's in Dartmouth, you better not forget the difference between the water service coming in and your permit fees. Okay, this could be different. This could hurt. That could hurt a lot if you mess up on the water service. Okay, and don't forget the septic in Rhode Island and Mass. There is no city or town that I'm aware of that requires you to get involved in septic. I know for a fact because I was inspecting Rhode Island, that was all state business. I think in Mass, it can be at the city level, but whatever it is, it's not our concern. Once you put your pipe into the tank, you're done. From the tank out, that's like building sewer. Okay, um, let's take a few more things about the permit, just for your information. Now, this is a part of the job that you're not going to see until you get your license, and there's no training that I'm aware of that shows you how to fill this out. Maybe if your buddies with the inspector, he'll sit down and give you the lowdown on this here. But it's nice to have an idea when you're going in to get one. And like I said, it's nice to have these. You can download these, I imagine, and depending on the city or town, they might have a policy where you can submit them by mail. You'll have to register with each city or town the first time, right? Which is smart. They want to know who you are. They want to see your license, that you're see what that you've got a legitimate business and license and so on. Uh, I do know somebody. This story goes back probably 40 years. It wasn't in Mass anyway. It was in Rhode Island. He was an electrician, and he used to look at the people driving by with the different electrical trucks, and he'd figure out like who the owner was and how old they were, and he made up a fictitious license number, and he used it for several years before they caught up with him. And you don't want to get involved in stuff like that, right? And then when he got in trouble with the state, he bought the license through some corrupt politician, which I don't even want to get into. That's what he told me. And knowing this guy, I would not be surprised if that was all true. Okay, so they want to see you the first time, and then after that, you just you know remember how they do their business. Whether you can do it by mail, I say mail these days. It's probably online, or they want you to come in person. But the first time you go in, I would make a point of at least the first time if you're working out of town. Remember the job I said down the Cape or up in towards Boston. Um, Absolutely meet the inspector if you're going to take out a permit. Hi, Mom, so and so, and here's what I'm going to be doing. And he sees that you're a person, you're for real, you're not a wise guy. You know what you're talking about. Never ask him a question about a technical question, right? They don't like that. You are supposed to know the answer. Now you can tell him what you're going to do, and if he doesn't like something, you tell him. Or your blueprint. I used to bring the prints with the sketch, all the single line sketch already on it, just like the sketch that we do in class. I put that right on the blueprint. Okay, that's just how I would do business. Okay. Also, last thing I want to tell you about on the permit is, and again, I'm going to hold this up. You've got your own copy. But below the obvious stuff like addresses and all the rest, up here, I think, no, you got to fill all this in. And down here, there's some stuff here. You got to fill in company name, corporation, whatever you are. Right here, this is the big one. This block right here that I'm circling with my fingers. It says insurance coverage. This one's very interesting. It says, and I'll read this to you, I have a current liability insurance policy or its substantial equivalent, which meets Mass Regulations 14, MGL, Mass General Laws, Chapter 142. That's us. That's our plumbing code. Yes or no? They're going to think, well, if it's no, I'm out of luck. No, not really. If you don't have insurance, it looks like you're running a rinky-dink operation, right? Doesn't look good. But it's legal. And that's why they have this, and I'll explain that in a minute. So over here, it says if yes, check the type of coverage provided. Liability insurance, check. Right? These other ones, I'm not that familiar with them. Bond, indemnity. Sometimes you have to be bonded. Commercial work, maybe. If you don't have insurance, right? This is if it was a yes, you check off liability. Liability is kind of like, that's if you screw up, but you didn't do it on purpose. Something went wrong. It's kind of like malpractice insurance. Mess up. Okay. Owner's insurance waiver. What that means is if I don't have insurance, right? It says it, you does not have insurance. The application, they will waive this requirement, right? However, the owner has to sign right here, right? The owner has to sign that they're aware of you're running a, kind of a two-bit operation, and you don't even have insurance. So what does it mean? You flood the place, burn it down, they can come after you, but maybe you got nothing, right? You might have an old car, you rent a place, they're not going to get anything. So did I ever use that? Yes, I did. 1991, I think it was 1991. My insurance was like so high. I was working until April because I was already teaching school and I was still inspecting. So I didn't have much time to do side work. So it took me until April to pay off the insurance. It was crazy. And that got old very fast. And I talked to my insurance guy, I knew him quite well. And he told me, he said, is your insurance man? He said, I got to tell you, you should not be working without insurance. I said, I'm aware of that. Because obviously somebody could come after me. And I didn't have a lot of money, but I had enough to make it painful if I lost it. So for the next handful of years that I still took permits, I did work that was big enough to take permits, probably for another 5 or 6 years, probably until the mid 90s. Yeah, not much later than that. I took a chance and I had to do this. And I'll tell you, I wasn't happy about this, right? The people would agree to it. And I would tell them in advance before it got to the point where I was about ready to start. Okay. But still, I can tell you from experience, it's nothing that you really want to talk about when you're running a business without insurance. The reason I was running it is because I already had 2 other jobs and I was still hustling to make a buck, make a living. And if you're doing it full time, there's absolutely no excuse not to have insurance. It's expensive. Even then, it was expensive. But today, I imagine it might be even proportionally, or even allowing for inflation. I bet it's even higher than what I experienced back then. Okay, also, there's a few other things on here. They mentioned things like type of license, and they'll call it the designation. Designation is a term for MP or master plumber or JP, journeyman plumber. Now, the master plumber numbers are lower because there's not as many of them as journeyman plumbers that were given out. We'll say if the master plumbers now are up to 14,000, mine is so old it's 9,000. They're probably around 14 or 15,000. The journeyman might be twice that. Okay, because obviously there are a lot more people that get the journeyman without the master. Another thing, this last time I'm going to mention it. My advice to all of you is get your journeyman in Mass. Obviously, that's what you're in school for, and stay in school. Even if you don't need it right now, you never know where you're going to be in the future. All right, the journeyman will only get you a license to work alone. So if the job that you think you're going to be at for the rest of your life blows up, goes away, whatever, and you want to go into business, good luck. You're going to be working alone, especially when you get older. It's tougher to work alone. Even when you're younger, there's some jobs you're just not going to be able to do. And also, think about getting your license in Rhode Island. The last I heard, Rhode Island was allowing you to substitute your the apprentice time in Rhode Island if you had your journeyman license. Right now, they had a reciprocal agreement, so Mass guys and Rhode Island guys are going back and forth. There was a little brief period in the late '70s, I think it was, where they had a little stink there where Mass wasn't recognizing Rhode Island and they get even. But anyway, they worked it all out. So my advice to all of you today is for the extra 100, 200 bucks, whatever, get both licenses. When I was in business, I honestly worked about an equal amount of time in Mass and Rhode Island. Right. So if you're living in this general area, I was in Little Compton, by the way, at the time, and you want to work in this area, you're gonna be going. You never know where these jobs are going to pop up. And I was going back and forth from Rhode Island and Mass all the time. And our codes are similar. Let me check. I check the time here. Yeah, we're running out of time. Our codes are close enough that you don't have to. There's very little time where there's a problem with the code. And if in doubt, you can't remember. Is this an inch and a half on the clothes washer drain, or is that 2 inch? Always go with the more restrictive one, right? It's not. It's very similar. Go with the more restrictive code, and you can't go wrong. If you go over code, nobody's going to worry about it. Okay. Might be a little more money, but not enough to be a problem. Okay, with that, I'm going to wrap it up. And let's see. Okay, so what I also want to do is, and we'll do that on the other side. Okay, so let's wrap this one up, and I will see you on the other, what I say, the other side.